Today we are working on sectioning objects. So what you're looking at right here is the ortho cutting line file, which I provided you. And we are going to copy these over to our previous orthographic file so that we can update it with sections. So in our cutting line file, I'm just going to select all the objects, and then I'm going to right click and choose clipboard and copy. And then I'll go over to my sections file. It will be your orthographic file. And I'm going to long right click anywhere, choose clipboard, and paste to original coordinates. Now this works because the two files are based on the same area and they have the same coordinates. So I was able to put the section lines in. So now we will work on sectioning our objects. So we're going to focus on the first one. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my guidelines off. Remember, the little light bulb turns things on and off just to make it a little clearer. And then I'm going to choose my hatching layer to add the hatches for our cutting line. And so here, this cutting line cuts the front view. So I'm going to hatch in the top view wherever that cut. So when I look at this, I can see that it cuts through the whole object. So all of this will get hatched. And I can see that when it cuts, everything is getting cut. So I won't need this line here separating these two areas. So I'm going to actually click on the blue corner for the line I want, and I'm going to move it down to the end point, but I need to turn my O-snaps back on. There we go. I'm going to choose the end point. So now it's one big object, and then I can type hatch, H-A-T, hatch, and you can see that it changes the ribbon up above, and I've chosen the ANSI 131 as my pattern. It also gives you options for solid and gradient, and then a user defined, but we're going to stick with the ANSI 131. You can also change the scale, so you can make the lines closer together or farther apart. You can choose associative, so that once we fill our object with the hatch, if we then later change our object, the hatch will change with it. And then you can make it annotative, so that you tell it what you will print at in the future, and it will scale the hatches to match what you're going to print at. So it will look normal in model space and on your printer paper. We are going to print this 1-to-1, so no real scale, so we don't have to worry about making it annotative right now. So I am going to pick an internal point, and I chose apparently my whole page, so we can U for undo. Is it mad because that's not closed? Do you see this little opening right here? It means that our object isn't closed. So I'm going to escape out. I'm going to click on my line. I'm going to take the red and go to the endpoint. So hopefully now our object is closed. So I'm going to type hatch again. And because the object was, my cursor was in the box, it's showing me an example of what it would look like. So I will just click on it and then right click to complete. And now I have hatched that where I cut it. So if we go to the next one, we're hatching the front view again. And so we will, the cut line is on the front view. So we will be hatching in the top view. Now, what's different about this one is that this cutting line isn't actually cutting the whole object. See this gap here? It's open. So this section right below it would not be hatched. So on our top view, we're only hatching on the right and the left. And then remember again that these two sections here on the left, the front section is taller than the back section. And we know that because this line on the front view is a hidden line. So it has to be, the front section has to be taller because it's hiding the shorter back section. And when we compare the cutting line to that hidden line, the cutting line is above the hidden line. So it's actually only the front taller section that's getting cut. So we'll be hatching this square and then this rectangle and then our rectangle on the right. So if I didn't want to type, I could go up to the ribbon in the draw section and click the button that looks like a hatch. And then I can select our internal point there, and I can select another one there because that is what we are hatching. And then right click to complete because that's all that we cut on this one. Those of you who did hand drafting are going, this is so much easier. And yes, it is. You're welcome. All right, so the third one, you can see that the cutting line is on the top view. So we will be hatching the front view. And you can see that the arrows tell us where we are looking. So in the front view, we will be standing in front of the object and looking that way. It's hard to describe with words right now for me. So you will see that we are not cutting this guy. We won't even see this corner. And it is actually taller. So when we do our front view section, we actually won't see this tall section. So we want to get rid of that. So I am actually going to see if trim will work. So I'll select that. And interesting. No, trim is probably not going to work for me there. So I'm going to actually draw a line. There. Right click. And now I'm going to select the line I drew in that area and type TR for trim. And then cut. Right click to complete, grab that other guy and cut it. Oh. I'm thinking more about the shape. So this is cut and the bottom is cut. Yes, okay. So when we look at this shape now and we follow this cutting line, the only thing that is getting cut is this area right here, because the section on top is right here and it's not getting cut. So I can press my hatching button and select inside and right click to complete. Now we move on again. Our cutting line is in the top view, so we will be sectioning on the front view. And so we're cutting through the tall, the medium, And then this section right here is actually is an empty section. So if I show you in our 3D model, we zoom in, we're looking at an isometric view. That section right there is cut off, and that corresponds right here in the side view and this hidden line in the front view. So I just wanted to show you that. So I'll go back to a top view, spin it right around, go back to 2D, and change my workspace back to drafting and annotation. So we will be hatching this section here, but not this open area. And actually, I wouldn't even have a solid line. My solid line would now be this hidden line. So I'm selecting both of them, hitting TR for trim. I'm going to trim that out, right click to complete. I'm going to select the hidden line and turn it to a continuous line. And then I am going to get rid of this line right here, because in our section you wouldn't see it. So I'll do the same thing, select them both, hit TR for trim, and it's, there we go. Right click to complete, and now I can hatch it. H for hatch, and pick inside, right click to complete, and we've hatched our object. Okay, so this is a cutting line on the top view, but our arrows are turned, so we're actually looking at a center line section looking to the side. So we will hatch this one on our side view. So the hidden line here shows a cutout, like this is empty, it's open space. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to make this a solid line and cut out the top and this, lots of trimming. So I'll select my So these are little separate lines because I imported from a PDF. So I'm going to go ahead and trace over them. So I'll change my line to scenic thick, which is just what those are. And I'm going to draw a polyline, PL. Right click to complete. And I'm going to get rid of all the little lines. And I'm using the blue to my advantage because the blue only selects things that are completely inside of the blue box. And since those lines were little, I'm using the blue box to select them and get rid of them. So now I can trim things out. So I'm going to select them all. Green box selects everything it touches. TR for trim. We'll get rid of that. Get rid of that. Right click to complete. So I don't need this line here, but I do actually need a line right here to show the back wall of our hidden line. So I'll enter, right click to complete, and then we will hatch this whole section. H, enter, internal. So we're seeing a section through all of this, and then this hollow area is solid, and then the line on top shows us this section here, kind of the back wall to our hollow tube. This orthographic view, you were given the front view and the side view, and there are actually multiple ways to do the top view. That's fine. So your top view may look a little different from mine, but we are doing another side view section. So we will be cutting right here and then looking that way. So it is our section here, our side view here, and we're going to figure out what gets cut. And I'm going to turn the guidelines back on just to help me envision what is what. So that's why you don't really want to delete your guidelines, you just want to turn them off, because sometimes you'll want to refer back to them. So if I trace with my eye, this section here is not cut, so it's going to stay solid. And then up top, if I go all the way over, it's this section here, and it is also not cut, so it's going to stay solid. But then these two sections on the bottom are cut, so it will get hatched. And I won't need this line there because they'll be cut evenly across, so I'll delete it and then section this area here. So H, pick my point, right click to complete. And that is sectioning. Just want to talk a little bit about ways of sectioning. So when you are doing the whole object like this, you're seeing a designer's view, a design view sectioning. If you were doing more of a shop drawing, you would hatch the different component parts differently. So if you were showing a crown molding, you would hatch the different sections of the crown molding differently. Now we just need to put this in our print view. So I'm going to do another layout 4, and open it up, and then I'm going to do my page setup manager, modify it. It's going to be a portrait. I'm going to choose AutoCAD PDF high quality. I like the full bleed. Scale is staying 1:1. Okay, close. And now I need to edit my viewport. So I'm just going to right click it to actually be a little bigger than my page, just because I'm using an educational version and it'll have a watermark. So if I get my viewport just right, the watermark actually won't print. And I'm going to go to my scale, change my scale to 1:1. Now I'm going to go into model space and move around. Here we go. And go back to paper space. I can actually select my viewport again and turn off guidelines. Here we go. And then the squares, the grid behind won't print, but it bothers me to look at. I'm going to go back to model space, turn off the grid, and go back to paper space. I just think it's cleaner. this way. So now I can print to PDF. And I do that by right-clicking on the tab again, choosing Plot. And you might have gotten a warning or a page that comes up that says, we see you have multiple tabs. Do you want to batch print? And I've finally gotten tired of it and I've checkmarked the don't ask me again. So I will click OK and then choose where I want it to print to. I'm going to print to an info drive. And drafting, and I'll leave it as layout 4.